Just as a painter uses shadow and light to bring depth to their paintings, shadow effects can transform a flat, static website into a dynamic, engaging experience. It's these subtle touches, these nuances of design that guide your audience's eye and emphasize the most important elements of your story. But the cool thing is that when it comes to web design, you don't need years of practice to learn how to add shadows to your site. In fact, with the right tools, you can get it done in a matter of seconds. Let's see it. Alright, we're going to be using Thrive Architect to insert our shadows. There's a link in the description box that you can click on if you want to grab a license for that. There's two different types of shadows that I want us to look at: box shadows and text shadows. Box shadows insert a shadow layer behind a container, whether that's a content box, a column, a button, and you can configure how far apart or how close you want the shadow to get displayed behind your container. Text shadows, on the other hand, as the name implies, insert a shadow layer behind a text element, and we also have some design configuration options that we can tweak as you're about to see. Now, before I show you how to use shadows, word of caution: shadows are great design features that are there for you to use, but you need to be smart about how you use them. And with smart, I mean, there has to be a reason for you to use them. Way too many times I come across sites that make use of shadows in an incoherent way, and this does more harm than good. Some tips to make sure that you're not one of these people is to, well, for one, be consistent with the use of shadows. Also try to make them subtle and try not to overuse them. Like if your buttons make use of shadows, there's probably no need for you to apply a shadow effect to your content boxes or columns as well. The way I typically use shadows is to either highlight buttons, elevate important content as shadow effects makes content feel like it's lifting off the page, or to simply draw attention to focal points on my page. All right, perfect. So I've got the back end of my WordPress blog opened up here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump into my posts. And let's just say here that I've got All right, I've got this blog post. I'm gonna fire it up with Thrive Architect. So if you wanna follow this tutorial on your end, just fire up a blog post or even a page perhaps. And let's just say here that I've got a long wall of text. It's a blog post. And let's just assume that in order to break up my massive wall of text, I want to insert a call to action for people to opt into my newsletter. This is something really easy to do, right? I can just drag in my lead generation element. I'm gonna put it right underneath this text element here. And here, let's just look for a lead generation, and let's just look for an opt-in form here. Let's do this one. This should work pretty well. And let's just assume that we want to add in some shadows to this lead generation form, to this opt-in form, just so that it stands out a bit more. First things first, I think I want to even out the spacing here in between paragraphs. Let's get rid of that spacing. Perfect. Here's where shadows can come in handy, because shadows can make the lead generation form feel like it's sticking or coming out of the screen. How do we do that? Well, here, it's just in a simple shadow here in our left-hand toolbar. So you can see we have the option to add in a drop shadow or an inner shadow. In this case, we're going to do a drop shadow because we want the shadow to be displayed behind the container. And here, Thrive Architect is going to give us some customization options. We can customize the angle in which the shadow is going to get displayed. I think I actually like 270 degrees because it gives me that sensation that it's being displayed neatly in the background. And we can increase the opacity depending on how dark do you want the shadow to come across. I think 20 or 25% should be fine. Let's do 25%. The distance in which you want the shadow to be displayed. That's probably more than enough. How blurry do you want the shadow to look like? I think I kind of really like it when it's blurry. It makes it a little more subtle. And the spread. How far do you want the shadow to get spread out? Just a little bit. Maybe like 1 pixel. There you go. And boom. This is a really neat way of making the opt-in form stand out a bit more, right? I think I want some more breathing room in between. Let's come back to our margins. Let's do like 40 pixels of top and bottom margin. Maybe perhaps even like 60 pixels, because since there's a shadow, maybe not 60, but 50. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Great, so that takes care of box shadows, right? Shadows that get displayed behind our container. But what about text shadows? Well, when it comes to text shadows, as I was saying earlier, the key thing here is to understand when you want to use them. There's probably no need when you're working on a white canvas like I am right now to use text shadows, right? Because you can read the text just fine. There's no need for you to use text shadows on this H1 heading because it's probably going to distract users more than help them understand what it is that they're reading. But there will be instances, for example, where, I don't know, perhaps you may have a container. Let's do a content box here. And you may have this container have a strange color background section, okay? And sometimes, and again, sometimes you want to make sure that you're only using it in specific scenarios where you actually know what you're doing. You may want to have like an H2 heading where the text is going to help you, or it's going to help make the text a little bit easier on the eyes to read if you have a text shadow. So here, in a very similar way to box shadows, as you can see, we can customize the angle in which the shadow is going to get displayed. Let's make this one a little bit darker so that you can see the shadow. It's a little hard to see right now. Let's put it there. And let's increase the distance a bit more. And perhaps the blurriness, that should be fine. So this is clearly not very good looking. Let me actually go back to making the distance a bit smaller. There you go. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, we want to make it a little bit more transparent. Perfect. So let me zoom in, and here you can see how in some instances it does help to have a text shadow to make the text a little bit more clear. It's a little easier to read, right? When you have especially very bright color background sections. But there are other instances where it doesn't make any sense. If you were to add a text shadow, for example, to the paragraph underneath it, it's gonna make it even harder to read, right? Let's just add in a little bit of text shadow here so you can see. Let's hit apply. This is kind of really difficult on the eyes to read, right? It's a little hard to process. So I don't really see the use case on having a text shadow here, but on here it could definitely help. It's kind of easy, right? I mean, using and configuring shadows is meant to be a piece of cake when you're using Thrive Architect. Just, remember not to get too excited about them and to not overuse them. All right, any questions that you may have, just leave them down in the comment section below. Useful links you can find in the description box. And yeah, thanks for watching. I truly appreciate your time. I'll see you soon. Thanks again. Bye.